Hellblade is special. It's a game that, on its own merits, is easily worth the £25 Steam price and the 6 or so hours of playtime. Having finished it only a few minutes before I started this script, I wanted to say that if you haven't heard anything about it, here's why you should play it, no spoilers at all. Whilst graphically stunning, the beauty doesn't end there. The visual tricks and stylings are unlike anything you've ever played, with particular attention going into the environment effects and the weather. Anything with a female lead whose character doesn't start and stop at those words is worth a look on its own. Not that Hellblade needs it, as Senua's personal story is captivating, and one of many layers to this game's narrative. It has some incredible set pieces that twiddle and fiddle the main mechanics around to keep every second feeling tight and engaging. The sound design is nearly unmatched, with a particular sense of praise falling on the binaural whispering, so if you're into ASMR, get on it. It's a creative, independent game from Ninja Theory that achieves more in its short campaign than most AAA games do in hundreds upon hundreds of hours of gameplay. Oh, and it lets you do this. Yeah, that's kind of amazing. Yes, please. If that's not enough, then do some research. Seriously, don't watch this if you haven't gone out and bought the game and played it to completion. Here's some review links, here's some trailers. Now chew, I'm about to salivate all over this game for about 5 minutes. Good, are they gone? Yeah, cool. Okay, so let me tell you why Hellblade fails in what it sets out to do by discussing mental health. Oh snap, what a twist! Hear me out. It's because it achieves something so much greater in the process. Much like Spec Ops a few years ago, everyone is praising Senua's Sacrafice for what it has to say about psychosis, but the more interesting thing to me is how it says it. Let's get something out on the table straight away. I'm a computer animation student, specifically a 3D artist, as insulting as that is to actual industry professionals. So yes, okay, I like the shiny graphics. I like the sexy, high-quality models in Battlefield. I drool over Inside's matte painting aesthetic. High-fidelity graphics are just something that I find interesting, alright? You know the Death Stranding trailer? This brick wall is what impressed me about it, okay? Okay, so as such, I'm very critical of such things. So take that into account when I say that Hellblade is a visual feast. Oh, it's delicious. The lighting and the modelling alone is enough to make your eyes roll out of your head, but it doesn't stop there. It's the way it uses that imagery to reinforce the emotional atmosphere, and it's something that, well, I haven't seen done as well since probably Spec Ops. Fun fact! Pathetic fallacy, despite sounding very naughty, refers to the attribution of human feelings and responses to inanimate things and objects, usually also the weather. For example, if a character is sad in a book and it's raining, or it's dark, or something like that. It's a really simple way to build a tone for your work, and so few games do it in an interesting way. At its worst, Hellblade is simply doing pretty standard things like forests and beaches in the best possible way, whereas the late game puts things like this and that in your face. It's bloody gorgeous. The great thing is, though, that they're not just pretty skyboxes. They often play a part in the gameplay as well. There's one segment that shortens your vision to just in front of you and uses this haze and this focus to blur out everything beyond. Outlast 2 did something similar with its camera, but somehow this is scarier, go figure. The animation is also reactive to the point that even Naughty Dog would sit up in their chair, and okay, though I won't lie, the transitions between cycles aren't quite Ubisoft standard. Seriously, this is the most impressive part of For Honor. They're emotive and weighty in all the right places. I especially liked how it rejigged the motion for certain commotions, such as running through the burning village bit. Whoa, look at that! All whilst keeping the player in control. And when it does inevitably have to pull that camera away, it's handled with grace, and with a camera that almost never cuts being enough to show Inuatu how it's done, it kind of gels the experience together to form a very intimate relationship with you and your player character. That's all well and good, but it's all for naught if the game part is just a bit right? Again though, Hellblade shines. Although not super complex, the handful of mechanics it tosses at you are explored fully and achieve the game's thematic goals without ever feeling too over the top. The permadeath mechanic does add a nice layer of tension to the meaty combat. I think I died about 3 times in the course of the entire game, once due to a camera bug and twice at this section because I ran the wrong way. Yeah. So it's not something I can say I had to deal with, but I can imagine how much of a ball ache it would be to redo the entire game. Couple that up with some insanely satisfying combat animations. I mean, seriously, this run, I could watch this all day. And a recovery focus mode thing for dealing with tight scrapes, and it's forgiving yet scary enough to make the arrival of new enemy types really frightening as you try and figure out how the hell to deal with this. I mean, look at it, how do you fight that? That's huge. I thought it was a really nice touch as well to have the fight final interactive bit of the game be a Halo Reach styled last stand against an insane amount of enemies, mirroring the player's panic swings, with Senua's achieving my beloved Ludo narrative cohesion. The rune puzzles, the other main bulk of the game, are a nice change from your pipe dreams and your sliding blocks of the world, and earn bonus points for making you really study the environment and learn the space you're in, even if they are a tad repetitive, though they never outstay their welcome. I also am a huge fan of the collectible element in Druth's stories, as each one is genuinely interesting and sets up a nice mini story arc, even though it's really annoying if you miss one because you miss out on story. Although the game is littered with really creative set pieces, I gotta say my personal highlight was this really sexy little section where you wade through hell with the god sword, tearing through hordes to some appropriately Nordic music, thank you very much. Each area messes with the status quo enough that it feels constantly fresh, but never so much that it requires some elaborate tutorial. In fact, I don't think there's a tutorial in the entire game unless you count the voices shouting focus, but we'll let that slide as it also adds to the character. Speaking of which, by the way, those voices react in combat by telling you to roll out the way when someone's behind you, and that's just plain cool with Grape on top. All this crazy, amazing stuff meshes together into a story that I'm conflicted about. I don't think it's even an issue of the story being told badly, as it's honestly not. It's quite the opposite. Senua's descent into Helheim is riveting, with the flashbacks to her past cut up nicely with the Viking mythology, and the voices and Druth plugging the gaps all in between. I think my beef with it really is that it feels just a little bit too literal, but I don't even know if that's a safe criticism. It's exploring extreme psychosis. To Senua, this is completely real, so it does make sense. I don't know. Without watching the featurette included with the team discussing how her condition influenced the game, the story does too good a job of investing you in the tortured brutality of the world she inhabits. Let me try and make sense of that for you. Imagine you go and watch, let's say, The Hobbit. Now, Bilbo is writing the story up. I think, is that right? Is that correct? Oh, I don't know, let's roll with it. Let's just say he writes up the story. He's writing that story of The Hobbit, and you're watching the film of those events. You, as a viewer, are invested in the story he's telling, right? But if he turns around at the end and says, oh yeah, well that was all made up, lol, roll credits. It doesn't feel like a satisfying resolution to the actual Hobbit story, which has its own climax. As painful as those films are, they gain very little from external factors, as you, the viewer, are witnessing firsthand the events of a 3-act story. When Hellblade rolls credits and we discover that she's conquered her demons, kind of, it feels a bit odd, seeing as how the story we've been fed, however steeped in hallucinations as it may be, has a coherent internal logic. There's only a small amount of catharsis in resolving the issue of her mental health, when the actual story would appear to end with her dying at the hands of a god as she is consumed by her darkness. I don't know. I'm notoriously cold to stuff like this, so perhaps it's me, not it, but I do want to say that sequel baity play out on a modern song felt very, very out of taste. The journey of discovering what happened to Senua and why she loves Dillion and how her father treated her and how she copes with the voices in her head, this is all excellent stuff with a satisfying payoff, though yet you could argue that the ending capitalized on that by having to let go of Dillion and overcome partly her mental illness that seems to engage for the 6 hours spent prior in the world of giants and gods and beasts and monsters. Maybe it's just me. That journey, however, is emotionally gripping, beautiful to watch, engaging to interact with, and utterly captivating. It's a phenomenal game that sits as the freshest thing I've seen in a long time, and a piece I hope better people can dissect more thoroughly than my ramblings. Is it perfect? No! In fact, for equality's sake, quickfire niggles. The camera bugs out randomly. The enemy variety is pretty damn weak. There's what, like 8 variants in the whole game, even at a final boss. The ending is a bit of a flat note to end on in my opinion. Some more Nordic music would be nice. Seriously, this is A-grade stuff for here and here. There's something really odd about having live action actors interacting with Senua. It's like the Uncanny Valley or something. Combat areas feel really telegraphed due to their wide open spaces. I think that's about it. For now, at least, my immediate afterthoughts on the game are glowing, and I'm glad it exists, to be honest. It's a brave title that succeeds where it can and tries damn hard where it can. I just hope that it finds an audience. More things like this need to exist. Pretty please.